So Leonard and Sarah are our youth directors for Life 412, and I really wanted to ask them to share and take that big step of sharing and testifying this morning, because we've seen so many fruits coming from their lives through the young people and so many changes of what God has done in their lives. So we'd love for you both to share. You've been such a blessing in our church, and they've been growing up in this church under my dad even since the younger days, and to see them grow from one level to the next, it's been amazing. So over to you.
Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be sharing who God is in my life with all of you this morning. So as a church, when we started on the intentional disciple journey, it has been a gradual progress for me. It's not an overnight change that God has suddenly transformed my life. But part by part, I learned to surrender each area of my life. And until today, I've not arrived, and I'm continuing my pursuits in each part of the surrender in my life. So growing up as a Christian, I have heard a lot, and I've said a lot of cliches about, about Christian, things like that. And I've been sucked into it without realizing it until we started on this intentional discipleship journey, and more specifically, I think this past year when we started on the Bible school, Bible college, and also through the breakthrough weekend that we had probably a month ago. So I had to go through inner struggles within myself, myself as a person, myself as, I guess, leading in youth and serving on keys, and realize the weight of sin and how fast it spreads. And I had to come to a point of, I guess, realizing that sinning and doing the subtle, it is okay to do this, so it's okay to do that, when Jesus has, no blemish, no sin, and has died for all my sins, even if it's okay. So it felt that when I came to that point, I felt that as though I'm not grateful for what he's done for me. So the breakthrough weekend was sort of it was a few days of cleansing and a few days of, I guess, repenting from all my sin, because Pastor Paul gave a whole list of different parts of areas where we sinned, and going through that during our silence and solitude time was just a period of cleansing. So what hit me hard was, and it's still ringing in my head, is that Jesus suffered on the cross because of my sins, and then I had to deal with each area of it, and so I had to wrestle with it. I had to have that struggle with him until I'm right with him with my current circumstances. So in terms of circumstances, with my family, with my grandma being sick, and I think my fear of public speaking, which I'm here now, and my selfishness, my temper, my relationship with Leonard, and I'm not proposing. Detaching myself emotionally from all these circumstances, and then depending on God is and that God is in control, and all I need to do is surrender to him. And when I surrender, it's just the beginning of, I guess, as in Psalms 32 verse 8, he will instruct me and he will teach me in his wisdom and his way, so I can be a testimony for him. So what he showed me through the breakthrough weekend was that my life is like a book filled with empty pages, and that neither myself nor other people nor circumstances can dictate or write in that book filled with pages, but letting him be the author of my life, and that he should be the one writing down His promises in my life and not, other people. And that only happens when I surrender the pen that I'm holding to Him, so that He writes it out for me. So with that, I also found that in after all that, He showed me this verse called Jeremiah 29, verse 12 and 13. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will hear you, and you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. So when I heard that verse, and until now, I'm still learning to surrender all that to Him. So yeah.
Awesome.
I guess for me, so one thing that I learned last year, if I can really summarize, it's absolute surrender, to live in absolute surrender in Him. So, in November, in my devotion, I read 1 Samuel chapter 14, and verse 28 to 29 actually spoke to me. So, but just to cut it short, in terms of application, I made a promise to seek God's will before I make any important decisions, especially the decision of buying a second house. And in my heart, in my accounting brain, and everything that I know in the worldly view, I know buying a second house is financially wise. It's most probably the best decision that will make me in terms of setting my life in the future and all that. But I guess in terms of application, I decided that, okay, I'm going to seek God's will. Even though I know it's the right thing to do, everyone will say it's the right thing to do, I'm still going to seek God. So with that said, I made a promise on that night. But fast forward to March, I sort of knew I had 20 in my bank account. I had 20% a deposit to put at least 20% of a house of my budget. So with that, I decided. Then Pastor said on the Bible college as well on that one Tuesday, he said, just because you have money in the bank doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Doesn't mean it's it's God's will. So that night, that actually spoke to me. So I shared actually with my accountability group with Guy and Kevin. I said, okay, I finally have 20% of my house to deposit my second house. So I said, I'm going to ask God to really just ask, for His, okay, what is your will for this money? Do I have the green light to get a second house? So I shared with them. I prayed on that Tuesday. The next day, on Wednesday night, we got a message from Pastor Paul saying it's an urgent meeting. We gotta get everyone coming on Thursday for all the leaders to come in. So I was like, oh man, it must be important. So I was like, yeah, no problem. But church is only gonna buy something. So I was like, yeah, it's okay. So I came on Thursday, right? So I came on Thursday. Pastor shared about we're gonna buy the childcare next door. So in my head, it was still okay. It didn't click to me anything at all because I thought the church must have enough money, to buy the door next door. As soon as he said faith pledge, I was like, in my heart, I was like, God, why did I start praying yesterday? Yeah, I was like, of all the times I prayed, He has decided to answer it straight away. So I came to here. I know this is a time where my faith will be tested. Where I can read, where I say what I've been sharing to the youth, what I've been sharing on stage, where to live a life of absolute surrender, to trust in Him, right? Whether it's just going to be a cliche in my life, So I know this is a time where, especially my true treasures, where I will be tested, because I'm like Christine, I have huge margins in my life, huge margins in my life, right? Honestly, when I bought my first house, I popped in 20% deposit, and the stamp duty I had to pay, I paid. I didn't have to take a loan out of it, right? So I had massive, so I came in, so I was like, so I said, so I went back to pray, obviously after the faith pledge, and after really spending time in prayer, reading the Bible, reading the book by John Piper, then the Sunday after, we had a mentoring meeting with Pastor. The tons of questions I had to ask him, just to make sure I get the right, I'm hearing the right things, the right confirmation, right? Yeah, just want to, cover all my tick boxes before, So after all that, I knew that was God's answer to my prayer. So not to give an amount, right? Because it's easy for me to just give an amount, then you say, tick, I'm done it. But to give, Pastor says to give, and it's not the amount that matters, it's the amount of sacrifice that matters. So I knew that whatever amount I decided to give, it has to be a sacrifice on my part. So cut the long story short, so I decided, okay, God, I'm going to pledge this amount, right? I'm going to put my my goal of having a second house on hold. I said, when the time comes, when I have the money again, I'm going to pray again, right? So I'll leave it at that. So, but for now, I know the plan is obviously no. God said no. So just to submit whatever He puts into my heart. So so by God's grace, I did that. When I put my faith pledge in the book, I did it with thanks in my heart. I did it with joy, because it's. I didn't do it grudgingly. I didn't do it like, oh man, bye, but I did like, I did with joy. And I thank God because He gave me the grace to walk in obedience. So post faith pledge, He's definitely blessed me in my work. He's definitely blessed me, because especially where now I'm branching to a different area of my business where I'm doing something else, where I need a client base. I'm getting calls from nowhere, just calling me to need help in that they need help in their tax returns. But I said to myself, but God has truly blessed my work. Yes, in my work, but more importantly, I see the fruits that I've been putting in. So especially what Pastor said, especially the youth, like I can truly see the change in the life of the youth, right? Where I've been blessed, where I've seen people where I've put in the work, I've really encouraged the youth, right? I can see the change in the lives of the youth, and that really encouraged me, right? Just there's heaps of stories I can share, but I'll just share one small story, right? So we had a community outreach event in 2 Saturdays ago. So I decided to go because it's also for me to be setting an example to the youth. So I went there, and part in my group, there were 3 people in my group. So we got me, Auntie Chelani, and Elizabeth, who's in year 10, right? So when we do non-knocking, we introduce ourselves, we gave brochures, we gave leaflets, right? So for me, all right, that's it, I'm done, let's go to the next house, right? As soon as I was to move away, right, you can hear Elizabeth say, do you want to know more about Jesus? Are you by any chance Christian? My head was just mind blown, I was like, here's a youth who's year 10, is 10 times bolder than me, so passionate to serve, to share Christ, so, and she did that a few times, right? So it blew my mind. So I can share more stories of where it's just amazing, because it's now not where me as a leader just sharing and imparting the lives to the youth, encouraging them in their walk, right? It's both. It's now they themselves, right, from what they do, they encourage me in my walk. So, and I believe that's what it says in Matthew 6 verse 19, where it says, do not store your treasures here on earth, right? But store your treasures here in heaven, where moth and rust cannot destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. And man, that's what I think, man. That's what I thought my treasure would be, to build the next generation, So yeah.
Man, awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Leonard and Sarah, so much for sharing. They've both been such a blessing and inspiration in leading the youth, and just hearing their testimonies. And as Pastor Paul always says, he's seen Leonard come such a long way, from the days of when his email is Kiasu Boy. Which means you don't like to lose out, or you like to save money. Definitely just stepping out in faith and giving so sacrificially and generously in the faith pledge. But more importantly, I don't know if you knew, but I was sitting here last Friday in the foyer. I didn't want to distract you, but Leonard was actually preaching to the youth, and I wanted to actually hear how he actually went. And I was really impressed by just the passion, the clarity, the convictions that he was conveying to the youth. And we're just so blessed to have you both in leading in the ministry and just sowing in, and definitely the fruits, as you can see, is already happening. So God bless you guys, and thank you for sharing.